Hello folks, and welcome to the SB Nation preview of the Portland Trail Blazers. I'm Dave Deckard from BlazersEdge.com, and I'm here to take you through the ins and outs of the Portland Trail Blazers' upcoming season. And as you can see, we're starting in front of a mostly blank canvas, which is apropos for the Blazers this year. The Roy Oden era is long gone now. The Damian Lillard era has begun. What's that gonna look like? Well, let's see. Our first preview question is how many games the Blazers will win and where they will finish in the Western Conference. And you know, predictions are kind of like arguing with your spouse. You can do it, but you're always going to end up wrong if you try. Nevertheless, we'll give it a stab. The Blazers are probably going to win in the low 30s this year, barring injury. If somebody gets injured, a significant player on the starting lineup, then they could plunge into the 20s. If things were right, they could probably get into the upper 30s. I do not see them getting to 500 or contending for the playoffs. However, they won't be the worst of the worst either. They're going to be right in that mushy middle of the non-playoff teams. I'm guessing 11th or 12th in the West, and a small chance at getting a high lottery pick. Otherwise, they'll probably be selecting about where they were this year in the lower section of the lottery. Portland's MVP this year is a pretty obvious call. That's going to be LaMarcus Aldridge. But it is worth noting that Aldridge will be among the most valuable of valuable players around the NBA. Not necessarily because of his talent outright, but because few teams will depend on their star as much as the Blazers will depend on Aldridge. Take him out of the lineup, and no matter who else is left, and no matter what your assessment of them, those players get covered tighter, get fewer open shots, and basically get shut down. Whatever system that Terry Stotts and the Blazers want to run, it starts and probably ends on many possessions with LaMarcus. So he's going to be incredibly valuable to this team. Without him, they are going to sink to the bottom of the league. Portland's X Factor. Now there's a tricky question. It all depends on how you interpret it. Some people are going to point to veteran players. They're going to say Nicholas Batum, Wesley Matthews, J.J. Hickson, the starters. If one of these guys has a great year, maybe Portland can shoot the moon and make the playoffs. But honestly, I don't see enough variance in any of their games to make enough of a difference. I believe that all of them will improve, especially with more playing time this year. However, I don't see any of them as a breakout star in the making of the kind to change Portland's fortunes. Others are going to go for deep bench players. They're going to look at guys like Myers Leonard and say, hey, if he comes out, well, the Blazers have some depth then. They have a real solid starting lineup. But I actually don't see that happening either. The problem is the opposite here. There's too much variance. There's too far to go between where these guys are now and where they need to be to make a solid impact every night. Therefore, I'm going to go with Damian Lillard. Again, you will see objections there. People will go, he's already a star in the making. What do you call an X factor on him? He's one of the stalwarts. I would remind folks that he is a rookie. His game is going to go up and down. But he's a rookie with the power and the talent to make a big difference. This team is going to be a lot better off if he can average, say, 16 and 7 every single night than if he scores 20 on some nights and 4 on others. Lillard has the power to take this from a fairly bad team to an almost decent one, and he's the only guy with a combination of talent and enough solid game plus enough headspace above him in order to be that true X factor. The next question is Portland's biggest area of concern going into the season. And honestly, you can take your pick. The team lacks depth. The team has not played together in this incarnation. LaMarcus Aldridge is learning a new system. Terry Stotts is trying to get everybody to play a different way. You have a ton of rookies, including one in the starting lineup at point guard. The center position is really thin. Point guard and center have trouble defending. There are a lot of holes in this team and not very much background which would convince you that they will be able to fill those holes and make up ground on more experienced, more talented, and more proven teams. If I had to pick just one area, though, I would say it's got to be the depth. I mean, Portland's bench, by NBA standards, is very, very weak. They did that somewhat intentionally to save money and preserve options for the future, but the price they're going to pay in the present could be severe. Once you scratch a little bit past that starting lineup, you have players that are not only unproven, but some that are downright disproven in the NBA. Disproven in Summer League, preseason, a bunch of places. We just don't know if these guys can or will be able to produce at all. It's okay to take a flyer on one or two players like that, but when you have a whole host of them, boy, you could be in for a world of trouble and a long, long season. Our final question is another prediction. Who's going to come out of the Western Conference this year, and who's going to win the NBA championship? Now, I hate to be boring, but I don't see anyone overcoming the Thunder in the West. Obviously, LA acquired a lot of talent over the offseason, but is Dwight Howard going to be healthy? Will he be able to coexist with Kobe Bryant? Will Steve Nash be able to add in there without taking touches away from either of those two? Both Nash and Bryant are used to having the ball in their hands in critical situations. How is that going to pan out? Will Nash be able to offer enough offense, particularly with the game on the line, to justify his relative lack of defense? In Phoenix, that answer was always yes, because it was his team. In LA, maybe not so much. I don't doubt their talent, but I want to see more from them before I'm going to anoint them and say they can overcome the reigning champions. Obviously, you have San Antonio, who is a perennial contender. However, I think this is the year where they probably finally really concede that they are too far gone to get it back and to contend for a title. It's been a number of years since they've won it. Everybody buries them every year. They always do really well, but they never end up on top. I think they are, at this point, the speed bump that other teams overcome to prove they are legitimate, but they are not themselves contenders. The Denver Nuggets are another intriguing team. I am not sure that they have the horses to do it, so we'll go with Oklahoma City again. In the East, again, it's kind of boring, but obviously the Heat are the odds-on favorites. I wish Derrick Rose could be healthy in Chicago because I loved that team last year. I was traumatized. I was sad when he got injured, and that took away their contention hopes. If he comes back, maybe they can challenge the Heat. I would love to see that. But really, I think at this point, barring other evidence, you have to say Miami. So Miami and Oklahoma City once again in the finals. And I see, like most general managers around the league, Miami almost certainly winning it again. It's really hard to stop the best player in the game. And LeBron can do almost anything at this point. So we'll go with Miami over Oklahoma City. And that is our Trailblazers preview for 2012-13. Thank you all for watching. Good luck, and go Blazers.